a diplomatic visit, an airstrike, and then a full-blown border war. You have to ask, how did relations between Afghanistan and Pakistan just completely unravel so fast? Well, in this explainer, we're going to break down the chain of events that led to a really deadly clash right on the Durand Line.
58. Just let that number sink in. According to Afghan sources, that's how many Pakistani soldiers were allegedly killed in a huge recent border attack by the Taliban. I mean, that is a staggering claim. So to really understand how things escalated to this point, we need to back up and look at what was happening just days before the first shots were even fired.
So yeah, how does a diplomatic meeting end in a deadly battle? You know, the answer, it seems, isn't actually hidden in the mountains along the border. The fuse for this entire conflict was apparently lit hundreds of miles away during a very high-stakes political visit.
Okay, let's get into it. First up, the clash on the Durand Line. We're going to start with the sudden and fierce firefight itself, which all went down along that historically, let's say, contentious border separating the two nations.
Now, the reports really paint a picture of a major, coordinated operation. We're talking about the Taliban's 200th Army Corps allegedly hitting more than 15 Pakistani border posts with heavy shelling. And in what has to be a deeply ironic twist, the assault was reportedly carried out, at least in part, using U.S.-made tanks that were left behind after the American withdrawal.
To really get this conflict, you absolutely have to understand the Durand Line. This border has been a huge source of tension for, well, over a century. See, Afghanistan has never formally recognized it, and that leads to constant disputes, making it a natural flashpoint for violence.
Okay, so this firefight didn't just happen in a vacuum. To trace the roots of this conflict, we need to look at a super rapid sequence of events that unfolded just before the attack.
It all looks like a direct chain reaction, like dominoes falling, one after another. First, you have Afghanistan's foreign minister making a really high-profile visit to India, who, is Pakistan's main regional rival. Then, in what seems to be a direct response, Pakistan launches an airstrike in Kabul. And almost immediately after that, boom, the Taliban retaliates with that massive assault on the border.
The key takeaway here is this alleged link between the events. The timing suggests that Pakistan's airstrike wasn't just some routine counter-terror operation. No, it's being framed as a political signal, a very clear sign of just how unhappy they were over the growing ties between Kabul and New Delhi. So what about the retaliation? Well, Kabul's response was swift and it was direct. The Taliban didn't try to deny involvement or call it a misunderstanding. Nope. Instead, they completely owned it, framing their military action as a totally justified retaliation.
And listen, this wasn't just some local commander's decision. The order for this retaliatory operation allegedly came from the very top, Defense Minister Mullah Yaqub. His involvement is a really big deal. As the son of Taliban founder Mullah Omar, his command carries immense weight and signals a unified, high-level decision to strike back.
All right, next section, a history of defiance. So as this military battle was heating up, a political one was being waged from a press conference in India. From New Delhi, the Afghan foreign minister delivered a sharp warning, one that was rooted in a long, long history. Speaking to the media, Amir Khan Muttaqi brought up his country's long history of resisting foreign powers. He said, "Ask the British, ask the Soviets, ask America. Playing such games with Afghanistan is not a good thing." I mean, that was a crystal clear message, and it was aimed directly at Pakistan. So what's happening here is really the deliberate construction of a narrative. By bringing up the defeat of global superpowers, the Taliban is framing this clash not as simple aggression, but as just another chapter in Afghanistan's long, long story of defending its own sovereignty.
So, with bullets flying and casualties mounting, how did the rest of the region react? Let's take a look at the diplomatic fallout, especially from some of Pakistan's key allies.
This is where we see some serious diplomatic whiplash. See, Pakistan has a defense pact with Saudi Arabia, so you'd think they might have expected a strong condemnation of the Taliban's actions. But instead, the kingdom released a very neutral statement, urging both sides to show self-restraint. It was a call for calm, not a declaration of solidarity.
And this cautious tone was pretty much the same all across the region. While Pakistan claimed it delivered a befitting reply, you had powerful allies like Saudi Arabia and Qatar just focusing on de-escalation. They all called for stability, which effectively means they refused to take sides in the dispute.
So why the hesitation? Why are these regional powers so reluctant to get drawn in? Well, the prevailing view seems to be a deep reluctance to get tangled up in a conflict with Afghanistan.
After 4 decades of war, the country is seen as a battle-hardened, unpredictable player with, quote, nothing to lose, and that makes any direct confrontation incredibly risky.
And all of this leaves us with a critical question. Was this just a temporary border skirmish, an outburst that's just going to fade away, or are we witnessing something much bigger? The early signs of a major realignment in South Asia, with old partnerships starting to fray. The answer could really define the future of this entire volatile region.